Yeah, infection right here. What they're saying. Oh shit. So welcome to the Mike Tech Show. Today we have two brothers, the Doneffs, right?
Doneffs, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. We have Cass, and Orin. So usually we just say how you're doing and all that junk. So I'm gonna do it for you guys. So how are you now? Good. Not so bad. How are you? Good.
Good.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah, there.
So before I used to have just some random bullshit questions, but I think we'll do an even stupider one. Who's the oldest?
I'm actually the oldest. I came out 2 minutes before Cass did because I fought my way out faster, and that's the only time that I have beat Cass in a race. So
Kind of like horse collar out.
exactly, yeah.
It was a cesarean section.
Yeah. See how it is. Well, perfect, because that helps me do the order of this next question. Football history. So,
Oh, it's a
Orin?
long one. That's a long question, man. Cass and I were kind of chatting about it before, and I guess like we started Super Bowl as early as you could start in Canada back when we played. We started off in Pee Wee football with the Cochrane Lions, and kind of moved our way up to the Bantam Lions, and then moved to Cochrane High, and we played there. But
are they the Cochrane Lions?
the Cochrane Lions, yeah.
Really?
No, sorry, Cochrane Cobras.
Okay.
But from Cochrane High, we then went down. Cass and I both played a year at the UFC with the Dinos, and then that's actually when our football journey kind of split up.
Okay.
My old man had played for the Edmonton Huskies way back then, and actually his head coach, John Belmont, was the offensive coordinator for the Huskies, who had just won a national championship. And we had chatted previously before I went to the Dinos about going and playing for the Huskies.
Yeah.
And we chose to go to the UFC, and I don't regret that decision, but it was kind of a year that was kind of wasted in a way because we both kind of sat on a redshirt roster. I think I officially dressed for one game, or I got on the roster one game somehow. Yeah. But after that, when I moved to Edmonton, at the time, the Dinos, were the coach at the time, Coach Persano, had talked to me about moving to defense. I played quite a bit of offense and defense in high school. Actually, in Team Alberta, I ended up playing corner and slot for Team Alberta, but chose receiver was where my true passion kind of came from. So I moved to Edmonton to play for the Huskies. They're already obviously a really well-established, really good team. Ended up starting, and then we ended up winning a national championship. I ended up winning a national championship with the Huskies. After a couple of years there, the coaching staff have kind of changed. And I decided my old high school coach from the Cobras, Rob McNabb, took over as the offensive coordinator at the Colts. And it was, the Huskies at that time, after winning our second national, we lost a bunch of guys. We had a ton of guys move on to CFL and CIS, different teams. So I decided to move back to Calgary and play for the Colts. Played a couple years with the Colts. The Colts were not good at that point. They were really actually quite bad.
So kind of like now?
Like worse than now. At one point the Colts had were getting close to the longest losing streak in football history. Was it, Cass? It was something like 37 games or something ridiculous.
It was a long stretch of pain and suffering for sure.
It was not. The team was not good. Cass was still there. Cass was doing quite well with the Colts. And Robbie and Coach Kendall, were awesome and brought me on board. So I ended up playing slot for them as well. And it was good. Our first year, I remember being going from a national, a national championship team, playoff team, to a team that I think that first year I played with Cass. The only year I played junior with Cass, we ended up winning, tying one game. And everybody was stoked about that game because they had tied a game to break the massive losing streak. And then I think a couple games later, I can't remember what team it was. We ended up winning a game. So we won. We lost all of our games, tied one and won one. And the next year was a lot better year. We had a good roster at that point. Cass had moved on. I think he had gone down to Kansas at that point. But we ended up making the playoffs, and we ended up winning a playoff game against the Wildcats to make it into the PFC final that year with the Colts. We ended up losing to Saskatoon, where I could say I got that was like probably one of the worst hits I've ever gotten. Our quarterback at the time got me laid up at a Hail Mary pass before half, and I got absolutely destroyed.
Like
Probably should not have played the rest of the game. All I remember is it was halftime. We were down by 2 or 3 scores, and quarterback at the time kind of threw it up on a Hail Mary before half. I went to go catch the ball, and the safety just put his helmet right underneath my chin and just absolutely destroyed me. And all I honestly remember, my helmet just ringing, just and I could not. And I just remember our trainer, Cass. Remember Nico, our trainer at the time, was just screaming and yelling. Coach Kendall was screaming and yelling. And I remember in the locker room at the halftime of that game, Coach Kendall was like, "Fucking Donneff over here is getting his head blown off." I'm just sitting there like, finished the game.
Did the guy get a penalty?
No penalty. That's why Kendall was freaking out.
It was different back then.
Yeah, football was a lot different back then. That was like the time I was actually talking to one of my coworkers who actually plays for the Rage. Her name's Jessica. I was talking to her today about special teams and talking about like a long ago thing for football, the wedge and wedge busters.
Oh yeah, those.
Yeah, and how I was like, sure, this is what a wedge looked like back on kickoff when you could actually form a line of guys, and you had guys on kickoff that were designated wedge busters, and they would smash through, try to knock over as many guys as possible. Obviously, a super, from a player safety standpoint, not a great play. And I finished my years with the Colts. I ended up just playing rec football quite a bit, touch and flag football. Started playing with Dan Craig. He's the guy at quarterback, played in the league now. He's the head coach of the Colts now. Playing flag with Dan, playing touch football with Dan. And then Dan kind of convinced me to come out for the Gators. Played my first year. Dan was actually a backup quarterback at the time to Dan Cirkitis. When the Vandals back in the day, when Glenn from the Jets will remember the Vandal days, the Vandal glory days. And we ended up playing that year. We ended up that year or the year after. It was the year after. But we ended up playing with the Gators for 7 years before retiring, and then
come back.
Kurt talked to Cass and I about bringing the team back. At that time, towards the last 5 years of our Gator time, Kurt, myself, and Cass, and the original kind of the OG Gator board members decided to bring back the team, and it kind of snowballed from there, and we ended up bringing back the team. I met Kurt, myself, and Don Scott went to pitch to bring the Gators back, and Kurt's a hell of a salesman and runs a hell of a good football team, so we were able to get us back in the league, and obviously last year was super successful. Yeah,
just taking the whole league.
Taking the whole league by storm, coming back, and it kind of started, I think, Cass and Kurt. I remember Kurt was telling me the story, and we talked about how they watched some film from the 2024, how the league's gone soft. We could come back. The league's gone soft. We can run the show. So, and then surprisingly, they called a ton of the old school Gators, and the old I was shocked at how many of the guys who'd been out of it for a while, including myself, who were I've been playing still playing touch football and going to touch football tournaments and flag football stuff. Been out of it for a while, but then we picked it up pretty quick, and now we're back. Hoping to run it back again this year. The league's getting better. All the teams are recruiting again, but
Gators come back and everyone has to step it up.
Yeah, that's right. So we kind of knew that would be the case. Kind of like an arms race when it comes to recruiting and building programs. And like I said, Kurt's probably one of the best guys I know that when it comes to organization, and he knows how to run a football team and a program, and a lot of that comes from just he runs a super successful small business and is a guy that knows what it takes to be organized and stay on top of shit, and here we are.
Yeah.
So.
Damn.
Yeah.
What a history.
Yeah, it's long. There's lots of little stuff in there, but
we'll get to that later.
Yeah, but it's been fun.
Yeah. So now for Cass.
Yeah, I'll be way quicker with my answer.
Boop, boop, boop.
So I'll just skip ahead to the part where we split.
Yep.
So then we can save all the other backgrounds. So
Oh, yeah.
Orin went to after the UFC. Orin went over to the Huskies, as you mentioned. Then I went to the Calgary Colts, and the way that it basically happened for me is the Colts were just having like workouts, throwing sessions, things like that. I attended those just for extra training, basically. At the time.
Okay.
And then the Stampeders at the time were having junior guys from the Colts do practices with them.
Oh.
So then I was approached by them to potentially to practice with them, basically, and then play for the Colts at the same time. So I did that for two full seasons. So I had
Yeah, that's a lot of football.
it was a lot of football, man. It's basically it was 2 straight years of 2 days, basically.
Yeah.
So I would have Stampeder practice in the morning. I would have university classes in the afternoon, and then I'd practice with the Colts in the evening.
Jeez.
So I did that 2 years. On the third year I played junior football. Before the season started, I signed a contract with the Stampeders to go into camp with them. Did their full training camp, got released. Played my 3rd year Colts, but at that point was, I think 3 consecutive years of 2 days would have been a little bit much. So
Yeah.
So I just played Colts. After that, I went down to the States, played for Washburn University out of Topeka in Kansas.
Okay.
Played 1 season there, and then after that, just because of the way things went with the eligibility and the clock, I was draft eligible that year, so
Okay.
I entered the draft, got drafted by the Tiger Cats, played with them, went to camp with them, got released by them, then went and I did my first season at that point in Europe, in Germany, for a
Damn.
team called the Bielefeld Bulldogs. It was an incredible experience. Just fell in love with every part of it. Came back to Calgary. Was back home for maybe 2 weeks, and got a call from my agent that the Blue Bombers were going to pick me up. So I signed with them, and then I played until 2013 with them.
Okay.
And then after that, I did 2 more years in Germany with just to travel really
Okay.
and experience more of Europe that we didn't really do the first time.
Was it still with the Bulldogs or someone else?
So 2 different teams. So I had
Okay.
1 year with the Cologne Crocodiles, and then 1 year with the Wiesbaden Phantoms. And the Phantoms, I think, are the Rhine Fire now.
Okay.
And after I got back from the season in Wiesbaden, Orin at the time had already been playing Gators for a number of years.
Yeah.
So I did, him and Kurt basically said, hey, why don't you come out and play with us? I was like, okay. So went out, played Gators with them, and played that season that was one where we lost in the national championship by 1 point.
Oh, yeah. I
And
remember that one.
the following season was a season where I got hurt, where I had my injury. Took like a full 1.5 years to recover from that.
Jeez.
Went and took a contract in Australia that I had arranged before I got hurt, but it was just something we had to push back until I was healthy enough to go. Went out to Australia, did a season there, and then after that was found a nice little gig, a nice little niche in the Netherlands, and was playing for a team out there for a couple seasons, and it was really sporadic because it was during COVID and all
okay.
this nonsense that was happening.
Yeah.
So the seasons were really kind of broken up with periods where they were able to play, where they weren't able to play. So it's, technically over the years, it was like 3 different years I was with them, but it was only 2 seasons.
Yeah,
So
that
it
was
was
weird.
So it was just strange how
Yeah.
it kind of got broke up because they started a season and they had a big pause. And then the following year they opened the season again, all the facilities, everything started to open up. So played another year with them. And then at that point, obviously throughout the years, always had a good relationship with Kurt, with Jordan, with all these dudes that we played with. Because we also played like touch football together, flag football together. And then,
You always have it.
Yeah, and then as Orin said, kind of before the season, Kurt and I were actually working together. And we were staying at a hotel and we were watching some film. Of the 2024 AFL season.
Yep.
And then, it's just like Orin was saying, we kind of look at it like, man, like this league is ripe for a Gator comeback.
Yeah.
And we had some really good teams to not actually win a national championship. So then, as they say, the rest is history. The Gators came back in 2025, had, a great season, or 2024 rather, had a great season, and finally crossed that one off the list.
Yeah.
Of the bucket list. So.
Yeah, finally making up for those lost championships.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, those both hurt. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which basically brings us to now getting ready for this year.
Damn, what a history from the two of you.
It's been a lot of football.
We're old.
Yeah, we're old. We've seen.
There's always more history the older you are. So.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. And injuries too.
Yeah. I mean, I think the football it's changed so much that and not to say like the young guys coming up, yeah. they're all terrific athletes. Everybody handles things differently, but it's almost like the things that are injuries, what someone would consider an injury now.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day, it's like it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
And you're just playing, right? So
yeah.
So it really, it definitely has changed a lot. Not saying for the worse. I mean, I think the player safety and everything like that has improved drastically, but there are components, I think, and there's still a place for some of the old war horses that can play through some stuff, and we definitely have a few of those on our team right now.
Yeah, true. So, with the start of both of your careers, where did the passion start, and do you think being brothers pushed you to excel in football?
I think 100%. I think as being twins made it easier on our parents because they only had to commute to one practice or like one game, and like I now know, Orin, too, speaking from experience, when you got two that are different ages,
it makes things complicated.
It complicates things a lot. Now like what would normally be a 2-hour day of coaching turns into a 4-hour day of coaching.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, Sunday practices are like our kids, like my sons, Kurt's sons, and Cass's sons all play on two different teams, the U8s and the U11s flag football. And honestly, like we're coaching, all three of us coach both teams. And so we start at like 12:30 and we don't end till 4:30 because they got practices and they play a game, and then you got like 20 minutes off before the next kid's practice starts. Coach that, and then you go straight into games, and it's it would definitely, in some ways, definitely harder to have twins, but like when it comes to sports, I think it was probably a lot easier. But I think that passion, like again, like it really comes from our old man. Just like breathes and lives football. He's playing touch football, like our touch football teams that I took over, back in the day. I think that shut it down a long time ago, but it used to be called the Los Hombres, and that was just like my dad's buddies that played football. And my dad played till he was like 55, almost 60.
Damn.
And
probably you too.
He's and if you see your old bird dog now, like it's definitely football. Again, coming back from an age where football was like, a sport where you played through injury. Like they didn't repair. Like Murray tore up his knee when he played junior football for the Huskies, and they didn't repair or restructure that stuff back in those days. They just removed all the damage, so he's got no ligaments. He would when I say, I know Murray, Dad, he was such a smart football guy that even with non-existent speed, he could still read a defense, still know where the holes are, still catch 5-6 passes in a touch football game, and still have that love for the game, and just kind of. I think growing up around that passion, like Cass and I grew up around, you never got to see Dad play tackle football. Obviously, we were too young, but the number of touch football tournaments we went to as kids, touch football practices, and touch football games we watched. In the old Mawada Stadium, which is now a skateboard park. For the youngins out there who don't understand, but downtown there used to be Mawada Stadium, the original home of the Stampeders used to play. Dad would have games down there. It was like a kind of a mini stadium, and we'd go down there and we'd play on the field, annoy Dad and his friends. But honestly, I still say that's probably one of the places where Cass and I learned how to read defenses and really kind of honed our craft, because we're we're 15, 16. I think we started playing on the team when we were in high school, like 16, 17, playing on that men's touch football team.
Damn. That's impressive.
And, we had to learn how to read zone defenses, how to learn all that stuff. And the old guys loved it because that time Cass and I were kind of up and coming, good high school football players. So we brought some speed to the old dogs. But I think that's a big, that kind of passion, that competitive stuff came from our old man, who's still, even with campfire games, he's still pretty competitive when it comes to that stuff. So.
Oh yeah, that never goes away. That competitive.
No,
side.
and it's kind of a thing. But
even when I have kids, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna let you in, no matter what it is.
You can't let them win.
Yeah, you can't let them win. Yeah.
But,
Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Eventually they will win, but then you got to accept that with grace. But for right now, no, you gotta get them to that point. So
see, that's why I work out. It's like, you're not gonna beat me until my ACL is like gone. But for now, it's still good.
You don't need ACLs. It's not a thing you need.
Exactly. So moving on. Of course, you just did some of the talking. We're gonna move to Cass to playing professionally and for Hamilton and the Blue Bombers. What was that like? Like for playbook wise, just the culture in general.
It changes. It's a totally different way. It's a totally different level. The biggest thing I would say with it is at that point it is a profession. Mm-hmm. So it changes a lot of the ways you even view the game. Like in terms of like the playbook, things like that, they're robust, but at the same time, if you're spending 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, and your job is football, I mean, you pick it up pretty quick. I would say there were certain things I absolutely loved about it, and then there were certain things that I didn't love about it. Like it was a fun job, but it was still a job. There was experiences I had certainly playing that I would say were more fun, less pressure. I mean, at the end of the day, you hit a point where you accept the reality that it is the entertainment industry. And regardless of what people may think or say, the entertainment industry is renowned for being absolutely cutthroat. So you do carry that pressure with you, knowing that it's just one bad game or two bad games in a row, and you won't be there. They'll get somebody else. In terms of like the playbook and how it helped in terms of my development, I would say that what it does is being coached at that level, you look at things. You just look at things differently. Instead of like, I think there's guys with us now that they'll look at the paper and they'll just see the lines. And then they try and memorize the lines. And when I'll look at the same paper, and it's not, I want to figure out what the actual concept of the play is and the spots to be in. Because once you understand the concept, the rest is easy. And I'd say the biggest difference and I was always a big film guy. Don't watch nearly enough now, I guess you could say, because I'm old and I've pretty much seen every coverage that
it doesn't change much in this league.
It doesn't change much, no. But I would say, again, you start to look at things differently. And the best example I could give would be like, if you're going to like a CFL game or you're watching an NFL game and you're watching like kickoff or you're watching a punt, is 99% of people when they're watching this live, they're going to watch the snap, they're going to watch the kick, they're going to watch the ball, and they're going to watch the returner. When I'm watching this, even if I'm sitting there watching it on TV, I'm looking at everything else. I'm looking at the entire play develop. I'm looking at the blocking scheme. I'm looking at, is this a field return, a boundary return, middle return? These are just the subtle, I would say, differences that being at that level and coached at that level bring.
It definitely helps when you're actually coaching as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But for the playbook, was it like this giant thick book? Like they show? Because I remember the Colts playbook. It wasn't too bad.
I went to camp with Cass with the Stampeders in 2007. And I remember because Jim Barker called and asked if I wanted to come to camp. And then they mailed me a playbook in the mail. and it's like it was yay thick, and I'll laugh now because I'll look at new guys coming at looking at our Gators playbook, which compared to like I played in a bunch of different offenses in the NFL, and Jordan's offense and our current offense, and the offense is like when our quarterback Dan Strider's running it, and Liam, and look at those offenses compared to now. Yeah, it's complicated, but it's like not even in the same universe when it comes to like how complex and what your routes are and your adjustments and all that stuff. And I was a late add to camp, so I only had like a week, and I remember like staying up at night just going through trying to read this playbook. I actually stole it when I got cut somewhere.
Might as well.
And I still have it, and it's like it's thick, and it is. If you were just coming from, football has changed so much over the years, where even junior offenses are becoming more complex, and high school offenses, are the same offenses that we ran at junior university, and everything just gets more and more complex as as football kind of evolves and gets more and more advanced, but. It would shock people. Even still, I'm still confident. If you looked at the CFL playbook that I have somewhere lying around here, it would like hurt people's heads to look at it. But
the biggest, I would say the biggest thing with it, again, like when you start to learn the playbooks conceptually, it makes it a little bit easier. And everything that they would do at that level that I remember is that. Every kind of play had a concept.
Okay.
So if there was a flood concept of any kind, it would be named after a diamond or a stone. It'd be like an opal, granite. If there was a deep concept or a vertical concept, it would be like a weather.
Oh, okay.
Like Chinook, Zephyr,
with
these different things. So at least if you get that down, and it's like, oh shit, I have no idea what I'm doing, but it's a diamond, so I know it's a short route, or something or it's a flood concept. At least you kind of have an idea.
You have an idea where you're.
You have an idea,
I don't know. Sections were like big cats and like states and cities.
Oh yeah,
and they all were something that meant something. But.
Totally, and what made it difficult, I'd say, what most people struggled with including myself, was the adjustments.
Oh yeah.
So you'd have a concept, and it's like, okay, it's Kansas, and it's like a corner concept. Okay, got that. Okay, well if they're in this coverage, it's now Kansas State, and you got to make this adjustment. If they're in this concept, it's now Kansas City, and you got to make this adjustment. And it's like.
Jeez.
And it's like, okay, if they're in this coverage or this blitz comes, it now becomes Kansas City, Missouri. So you got a whole another so it was the adjustments on what you were doing depending on the coverage that definitely made it complicated, and that's where it got a lot of the girth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
From it, so.
Yeah. It's funny because when I started playing receiver, it was just that's my route. I'm just gonna run that. But the more I learned the game, it's kind of like you're playing quarterback as well, reading the defense and the concepts.
You got to make sure we're both on the same page.
Yeah,
that's kind of
and I'd say, and this is a good one too for even, and I would try to preach this to the young fellas on our team too, is that the game's evolved enough and the playbooks are complex enough that if you're a Z or you're a B or an A or a W, it's not enough to know your spot. You got to know everybody else's spot.
Oh yeah,
100%. On the simplest concept. So we have a play like a simple play like a 9 from the outside and like a 10-yard dropout from the inside.
Yep.
You got to know on that play concept as the wideout in that play that you got to take a mandatory outside release. Because if you go inside and you flip the corner's eyes to the inside receiver, you get your buddy laid out.
Oh yeah.
So these are the things where I say you can't just know your spot. You got to know every single position. It also helps any team you're on with depth too.
Oh yeah, true.
So.
Yeah, I remember one art we had with the pack. It was like double outs. I was like, this is stupid. I'm just gonna break it off. Because why keep running out with them instead of having 4 guys in one spot?
Well, That's another concept.
Yeah,
too. At the end
it's
of
like
the
I'm
day,
just doing my own thing here.
Well, at the end of the day, the goal's to get open, right?
True.
So so long as your route is not screwing somebody else getting open, which goes back to you have to know what everybody's doing.
Yeah,
if there's an
exactly.
opportunity to just find a hole and sit, if you got a good quarterback, which
Yeah.
for years the Pack you don't have and the Gators have, then it makes it easier.
Yeah, that's what I say. I'm always open.
There you go.
Anyways, so moving on to it was like the Huskies, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So as I do research on these episodes with your Facebook, just scrolling, I'm like, God damn, I gotta find something that's not family related.
Yeah, I do
Which is
post
cool
on-
to see.
I do a lot of family stuff
Yeah.
on there. Yeah.
So of course, seeing the what's it called, the championship ring, I've seen you flash it a bit.
Yeah.
What was that championship team like? So going from the championship Huskies
Oh, man.
to the Colts.
That Husky team, the 04-05 team, the team that I played on, the 05 team, sorry, it was special. Like that team had so many CFLers on that roster, like Marco Iannuzzi, Simeon Rotier, J.R. LaRose, Grant Shaw. Those are just some of the guys that played in the CFL afterwards. We were stacked at in almost every position. We kind of that year actually had a bit of a struggle like early on that they won the national, and that year we lost a few games in regular season. We lost a close one to Saskatoon. We lost to Winnipeg as well, but then we ended up being the lowest seed in the PFC and going to the undefeated into Winnipeg. The Rifles, we ended up, they were undefeated and we were in fourth place. We were not expected to win, and we knocked them off in the first round. Second round, we went to Saskatoon, won another close game against a really good Saskatoon team. And then from there, we went to BC and played Surrey Rams. I guess the Rams. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Rams.
Yeah, it's the Rams.
Yeah, and then we beat them up pretty good that year. The BC League wasn't as hot as some of the some of the Okanagan Suns or some of the teams the Rebels that had won out of there in the past. So we beat them up pretty good, and then we went to it's Quebec, to St. Leonard Cougars, and beat them. I think it was 35-14 or something like that.
Damn, that's a lot of travel.
Yeah, so that year, even on our rings, our national rings, it has Road Warriors. So I think we're the first team. I think the first team, or one of the only teams in the CJFL that every single one of our playoff games was a road game. So we didn't have any road victories. So on our rings, it's Road Warriors. Is what's on our rings, because we didn't. That was a fun team to play for. Last year was an amazing team and a really a fantastic experience. But I'll never forget. Both of them are unique in their each way. Kind of just Cass was saying before, losing those close nationals with the Gators and then finally putting the cherry on top last year was special, especially with some old friends like Jordan and stuff. Like it was truly special. But that Huskies team was an amazing team. So, and a lot of those guys ended up playing in the AFL afterwards. Like Nathan Aldrin was our quarterback. He ended up playing for the Drillers for years. Simon Fowle was one of our wideouts.
Yeah, I remember hearing about him.
Yeah, so like there's lots of guys, and there's a ton of guys that used to play on that Huskies team that actually ended up playing for the Drillers, and then a few for, this is old school AFL, older school, not as old school as Glenn, but old school.
Was there at the beginning?
Yeah, but they played for the Edmonton Stallions back in the day. So,
oh yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, they had a couple good years. I think Grant played potentially a year for the Stallions back in the day, but he ended up. He was a stud corner, but ended up kicking in the CFL of all things. But
hey,
yeah,
got a job.
Yeah, so it was a fun special time playing for the Huskies back then. I always remember and have super fond memories of it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Still gonna flash that ring around.
Yeah, still got the ring. It sits beside my Gators ring, so it's not quite as big as our Gators ring, because over the years the championship rings have just gotten bigger, and bigger.
Yeah,
but it's a pretty special one for sure.
Yeah, hopefully you guys can get another one.
Yeah, we'll see. I know East is going to be tough. Cold Lake gears up. They wanted to be competitive. I know Airdrie's added a couple good players. A couple players in the league are jumping ship to, go to Airdrie and make their squad a little stronger. But our team this year the Gators have recruited strong yet again. So
facts every year.
Yeah, it's honestly, I was a little bit concerned because we had some key guys. We lost some key guys. We lost one guy to the Irish, Cam, and we lost Dublin, and we lost Cody and Dawson. Those guys were studs on our defense. But if it makes it, our defense just looks at this point looks crazy good. So we had a bunch of good ads. Some guys in from other teams in the league decided to jump on board, and like last night's practice defense looked kind of scary. So
yeah, I definitely can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited actually. The defense is one of the things I'm super excited to watch. As an offensive player, if I can just watch it takes a lot of pressure off the offense if the defense is going to be out there, doing their thing, and it's going to be tough to compete with our defense for sure.
Yeah, just can't wait. All right, time for a trauma dump. What I like to do on this show.
Trauma dump. Okay.
Yep. So, of course, as athletes, we all experience setbacks. Can you guys name one part in your career that you look back and think, if I didn't have this, you wouldn't be the player you are today? Or we can say the man today, on or off the field.
Like a bad thing?
Yeah, bad thing.
I don't know. I don't like things that are a bad thing. It's just kind of all part of the journey. But I think if I look back and like if I'm not bitter, but just like, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that.
Yep.
And like, I think there's this big faux pas back in the day that, you got to go to a CIS, you got to go play CIS, you got to go do this. There was a ton of pressure for Cass and I to play, and with lots of, interest from different CIS teams across Canada. But, I think parents wanted us close to home. Mom and dad wanted us, to stay in town. So
that's fair.
I ended up, committing to the Dinos back in the day. And, it was the Dinos were decently good. I don't remember they were competing for a Vanier back then or not, but they were a CIS good team.
Yeah.
At that point, they just changed the rules, so you could only play 2 years as junior. But I think it would have been just a much better idea to not go play. I felt like I wasted an important year early on, playing for the Dinos, and that's I still will say that it's not necessarily those early years, especially coming out of high school, are so important.
Yep.
Your landing spot, that's like an important decision of where you go, what you do. And then kind of, right after that, coaches wanted to move me to defense, and I just decided to, I'm not doing that. And I just probably made the best decision of my life and ended up moving to Edmonton to play for the Huskies. That's where I met my wife. And that kind of had such a domino effect on my life, to be honest with you. Like moving to Edmonton, playing for the Huskies, winning a national championship, meeting my wife, getting married.
Yep.
My wife and I got married super young. Amazing wife, Holly. She's on the board for the Gators.
Yeah. Shout out to Holly.
Yeah, shout out to Holly. She's there's a couple plaques up here, board member of the year, that actually say Holly on it because, in 2015 and 2014, she does a lot off the field for the Gators, and without having that experience with I wasted year, but kind of led me to, move to Edmonton to play football for the Huskies, meeting her, and now it's a big part of who I am, and I think, it's made me who I am today, I guess you could say. But
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Cass, your turn.
Ooh. So I'm probably not going to take the regrets path. I don't, because I don't really, in terms of football, like every year is different, every season's different. I don't really have any, honestly.
Okay.
I would say things that I wish didn't happen.
Okay, we can talk about that.
I would
Maybe
say,
some injuries.
Yeah, I would say the hip injury, the Bo Jackson injury, was a bad one.
Oh, let's talk about that one.
Yeah, so that was right after we had lost to GTA the national championship by 1 point the season after.
Yep.
And then I think it was game 4.
Whatever the Fort Mac game was.
Yeah, whatever the Fort Mac, the first game was. And we were playing them pretty tough. We were winning at the time, and then just came across the middle, went down like it on film it looked super innocent, but went down really awkwardly, where like my knee got pinned between my chest and the ground, and the guy came on top of me, so it dislocated my hip, and so I had to have surgery. I got a plate in there now, 11, and I got 11 screws in there right now.
Jeez.
And that definitely just changed everything. Changed to me as a player. Changed everything. Everything kind of took a notch down.
Okay.
and it was a really, really grueling rehab process. I remember when the injury first happened. This is what it was mentioned before, kind of in the journeys, where I had plans to go to play in Australia, and their season, because the time difference and the seasonal difference, they're not till like November, December.
Okay.
And I remember before the surgery asking the surgeon during the consult, being like, "Hey, like, so how long am I out for?"
Yeah.
And I remember him just like explaining. He's like, "No, like you don't." He's like, "You're not getting it."
Yeah.
He's like, "The goal of this is for you to walk someday without a huge limp, hiccup, or pain." He's like, the odds of you running again. He's like, I don't know, 10%.
Jeez.
And
Is that like a challenge accepted thing?
yeah, it was totally a challenge accepted, man. And it's that's how I've handled a lot of things, whether it be taking risks in business, taking risks in investments. It's the belief and faith in myself kind of carries me through, and I can remember. I remember when I was going to camp, and this is after I had some disappointment in the CFL, but when I was going through training camp with the Bombers, I remember they had this freaking thing where the receiver, we had to share, everyone had to buy breakfast like at least one day during camp. So
one of those.
Yeah. So I was at like this McDonald's, and I'm waiting in line to order fucking 20 meals for all these receivers in camp, and so I'm just pulling out the newspaper waiting for this order, and I saw this thing with the Bombers and camp projections and everything, and they had me in there as like odds of making the team, like, and it was 20%.
Damn.
And I remember looking at that article and just thinking to myself, 20%. I'm like, 1 in 5? That's damn good odds for a Doneff.
Yeah.
And that's been my mentality. And when that dude, when I was, before the surgery doing that consult, and he said 10%, I was the same thing. I was like 10%. I was like, there's some percents in there. Like, I got a chance, right?
So you're telling me there's a chance.
Basically, yes. And I worked, like I said, and the rehab was grueling, and just to even have a chance to come back and play. And I give a shout out to Anton Joseph. I had him, and he was working me out personally. And that's one of the stories I remember. So he's working me. He's a very good trainer. He's trained a lot of professional athletes, and so I'm trying to come back to this injury, and I was like, of course I'm an impatient guy. I'm an impatient man. So he's, where things were going pretty slow. They weren't going at the pace that I wanted them to go at. And then I remember, I was expressing one day my frustration to him, that I was like, man, like, we're not making the progress. We got to step it up. And then he's like, no, like, there's a process. You got to trust the process also. And I remember I just said, Anton, I'm paying you to be my fucking trainer, not my babysitter. And I remember that dude, he looked at me and he goes, all right. Okay. And he put me through this workout. I could not walk for 3 days after.
Jesus.
I had to text him out of shame and be like, dude,
My bad.
I was like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I will now trust your process. So, but he was instrumental in me being able to come back. And then, like I said, at the time, I had I had that goal and that vision to play in Australia. So, and I did. So I went over there, and so probably, even though it was one of the worst things that ever happened to me, it led to probably maybe one of the proudest accomplishments I have is just to even be able to come back at all. So yeah, I would say that would be the...
Okay. Yeah, that's what I like with setbacks. There's always, like at the time, people hated, like, oh, it's the worst thing that could happen, but there's always a silver lining.
Yeah, I mean, life is full of, unexpected, turns and twists and roadblocks, but it kind of it's part of the journey. Like I said, I wasn't happy with the Dinos, but then it led me to my life now. So it's hard to like, regrets probably was too strong of a word. Like, it's just like, look back and be like, man, like, I wonder what would happen. Like, you kind of that wonder of like what would have happened. But honestly, like, I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
All right, now to go up. Funniest stories. Any juicy ones? Because whenever I ask this question, I always get like decent ones.
Well, like, I've got like, wow. There's so many like off the field stuff, and like we got a copy of some of the questions beforehand.
Oh yeah.
But like, so we were trying to think about questions that like we could tell. There's like tons of off story ones that like probably not good for public consumption. But like one of my favorite stories is actually with Jordan Heather. We were playing in a touch football tournament in Kelowna, and in May long weekend. And at the time, my touch football team already had a quarterback. His name was Andrew Jones, actually another Gator receiver that used to play with us. And they're kind of splitting quarterback roles, and Jordan was playing some receiver and playing DB.
And like TV.
And like it was him. It was him. Yeah, he was good. Yeah, he did okay. He's athletic. He's got athletic. But the funniest part was like afterwards, and like we were like, it's 5 days, like, or 5 games long, and they're like, and it's in the hot sun and everything. And I just remember coming to things just like, man, my elbows are sore, like in both his elbows. Yeah. And like, it's because like he said he was running like this, and like, and being a quarterback, not used to running so much, like his elbows were sore from the motion, of running. And like, oh god, that was one of the funnier just like football moments with Jordan. And like, again, like so many memories with so many different guys on the team, but that one, I don't know, for whatever reason, it always brings a smile on my face. Anytime I like think about Kelowna or like going to BC for a guy's trip or something, like, and we're all dehydrated because we're having too many wobbly pops, but it was a fun time. But
yeah, that was fun.
So safe to say, Jordan needs to learn how to run.
Well, I think he's gotten better. He's gotten better, but it's just like his elbows were just sore. And then actually, one from last year was actually pretty funny. Cass and I took all the younger Gators out for a camping trip. Or not Gators, like newer Gators, out of town guys that aren't used to, haven't seen the mountains and haven't been around
Alberta life.
So we take them out to Crown Land. We have some drinks and have a campfire and do the campfire thing. And obviously, lots of drinks were involved. And I remember Reed, our quarterbacks right now on the Gators. He came out and he was like, "Wow, look at Orin. He's so wasted." Because at this time, I've had a few drinks at this time. And he goes to sit down, and we're just like sitting on logs on a campfire. He totally eats shit and just like feet above his head, falls backwards on his ass, like, and everybody just started dying laughing at Reed because he would actually turn out to be probably one of the drunker guys, and it was
I can see that.
It was pretty funny, but.
All right, Cass, your turn.
All right, so I'll do. It's hard. This is a hard question because we were talking about it. Is you don't want to cross the line. And I think about all the different teams I've played for. I mean, I've got like 15 hysterical stories from just Gators and just strip club settings.
Yeah, I have one too.
I can't share any of them.
Those are all confidential
with the world.
Yeah,
I don't want my mom seeing that.
Yeah, true.
So
it'll break her heart.
Yeah. So there's a couple. So I'll start with one that's just random, and it's an unknown fact. I don't even know if Orin knows this. And then one that's a life lesson.
Okay.
So the one is, one time I was on Kiss Cam. and it was the Labor Day game, and we were in Saskatchewan, and you know how they do the thing with the kiss cam,
Oh, yeah.
going around to different couples or whatever, and you know they'll mess around with the opposing team. They'll put 2 guys on the opposing team on the kiss cam.
Yeah.
So they got me. I was on the cam, and my buddy Dan, who I came up at the training camp and everything, was standing right beside me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I'm sitting there. At first, I was like, no. But then the crowd, like, they were going crazy, like, kiss, 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 kiss. And that was probably the loudest cheers that I've ever had for me in my life.
Yeah. It's just a kiss.
Was the kiss cam, like, just to kiss a dude I'm standing beside. And I did it.
Yeah.
I just hit him right on the cheek. I got him right on the cheek, and the crowd went.
That is not as surprising as you would think.
Yeah, the crowd went crazy, and it was just like, I was like, yeah. And then after it, I was talking to him about it. I'm like, yeah. So I was like, I think we did well. Yeah. It was good.
Crowd loved it.
Yeah, crowd loved it. We're here to entertain, right? And then the second one, and this is the life lesson.
Yep.
Is so we were in in 2011, and we were in Switzerland. And we were camping by a lake. This was during a bye week, and I was there and we had Kelly, who was our quarterback. We had Jimmy, who was a linebacker, and Jimmy, he's like, the dude won a national championship CIS with the Bisons, like big strong dude, physical linebacker, like the kind of dude you want on your side, like in a scrap.
Okay.
So tough guy, and there's this lake, and there's like this little platform, this little dock. And Jimmy had expressed some concern to Kelly and I about swimming to this dock, that he's not the strongest swimmer in the world.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, fine. So we're like, okay, whatever. So we just left Jimmy at the shore, and we went up to this dock. Swam out to this thing. We got there, and then, I don't know why, we just decided, like, hey, let's get a pump on. So we started doing some push-ups, started doing some sit-ups and everything like that. And I could just see Jimmy, like, just pacing, like, maybe waist deep, like, just pacing, just watching us. And then, so eventually, it's like, Kelly goes, Jimmy, just come on. It's not as far as it looks. And I go, yeah, Jimmy, if it's life and death, you'll make it. So Jimmy starts swimming out again, and this dude, he's not a strong swimmer.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm talking like a dog paddle, like a big guy, head bobbing up and down. And then he hit a stage where he was, like, I want to say 8-9 yards away from this dock thing. And then I think what happened is he realized he's too far from shore to go back, and he's too far from the dock to make it. So he starts panicking.
Oh, Jesus.
So he starts panicking. And the worst part is when he goes, so at first he's like, okay, and his voice is cracking. He's, help me. and at first, I thought he was fucking with us.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was going to be one of those things, and Jimmy would do this shit all the time. Like, oh, we jump in the water, and then ha ha ha, and he goes to the dock.
Yeah.
So at first, we didn't do anything. We were just sitting there, we're watching our friend drown.
Yeah.
and then his head went under the water.
Oh, fuck.
And then I'm like, okay, he's really selling this thing. Like, he's doing a good job. Then his head comes back up, and he is like,
tears.
I'm serious. Get in here. And I just turned to Kelly, and I'll never forget his face. Like, and I'm like, oh my God. So we both dove in, and we each grabbed an arm, and he was just shaking.
Jesus.
Like a toddler. And we got him to this dock. And then we couldn't get him off it.
Yep.
We couldn't get him off it. Like, he refused to get back in the water, understandably.
Oh, yeah.
He just died. So we actually had to, like, swim back to shore, leave him there. Swim back to shore and find, like, some random Swiss fisherman and get his boat to come out and bring Jimmy back. So it's a ridiculous story.
Yeah.
But the lesson is, if you have a friend who tells you they're not a strong swimmer, don't convince him to try and swim.
Yeah.
Like, it's just bad things are going to happen. Just don't do that.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's intense.
It's
Okay.
funny.
So we do have to wrap it up. We're going to skip a few questions, but the one question I need to know, in a 50-50 jump ball, who do you think is going to win?
Now?
Right now.
Oh, I win now.
Yeah, Orin, he's got better hands.
Damn, I thought you guys would argue about it.
I win for sure.
Because
Well, no, you know what?
you know what? If you guys
You know
were going
what,
to argue...
though? I've got more reach.
Yeah, he's also smaller though.
I've got more
I'll
reach.
push him out of the way. I've got more girth.
So he's definitely got. So here would be the thing.
I'd box him out. I'd
Yeah,
try to
if he
box
could
his ass
box
out.
me out,
Yeah.
that'd be a problem because I couldn't get around him.
Oh, yeah.
But if I was in front of him, he'd have to PI me like crazy
You want to know
to
what...
clear the path. Like
You want to know what the correct answer is? Trick question. It's me. I'm going to win. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Take care and enjoy the season.